Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Farrah and today's video is going to be my favorite books of 2025. I'm really sorry this is a bit late. I kind of dragged my feet on making this for a little while. Actually, in reality, this is the first sit-down video I've filmed since mid-December. So it's been about 2 months since I actually filmed a video. I know I put videos out, but those were all filmed a while ago. So here we go. I'm going to try to go through some of my favorite books of the year. I think total for 2025, I read probably around 61 or 62 books for the year, which was great. My goal was to get to 50, so I made it. So we'll start with nonfiction, and I'm going to go through the ones I don't have a physical copy of first. So I read My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell, and this book is book one in a trilogy he did of his experience as a kid growing up on the island of Corfu off of Greece. His family originally was from England, and they decided to move to this beautiful, sunny, warm island. And him being a nature lover and an animal lover, he just had the best time on this island, just learning about the plants and the wildlife, and it goes through some of his adventures on what his experience was like. And it was great. I just found the writing to be really, really nice, and it was very humorous. He went on all these little adventures. Sometimes I wondered how much was maybe a little bit embellished or remembered differently, because there were some little stories that were kind of hard to believe, but I like how he anthropomorphized the animals quite a bit, really brought them to life, and I just really enjoyed it. It was such a fun book to read. I definitely want to read the other two books in this trilogy at some point, but that was wonderful. I really enjoyed that, and I have to thank, I think it was Mark from Booktime with Elvis who read this one and talked about it on his channel, so that's what encouraged me to read it. He has quite a few books on here that inspired my reading. Another book that I really, really enjoyed was this was a buddy read I did also with Mark from Booktime with Elvis, and this was called Mozart's Starling. This is by Lyanda Lynn Haupt. So this book is kind of part memoir but part history nonfiction about Mozart, the composer, and his relationship with his pet starling, which was a beloved little bird that he heard one day while walking down the street. He heard it coming from a pet store. This little bird whistling a tune of one of his latest pieces that he had composed, which he hadn't shown to the public yet. So right off the bat, he was like, how in the world could this be possible? This little bird is whistling this tune. So he ended up adopting the starling, and he absolutely loved it. It served as a muse for him, so much inspiration. This little bird was everything to him. And so it talks about his relationship with the bird, or at least what she could find out about it, and then her relationship in the present time of adopting her own starling and to see what it would be like to have one as a pet. And these birds European starlings are an invasive species here in the US, and they're everywhere. I mean, I have tons of them outside, and while I was reading this in the spring, they were all coming back to the area. And so reading this book along with listening to the starlings and seeing them nesting in the tree right next to me was such a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful book. It was so heartwarming. It was really interesting. Mozart was a very interesting person, and it kind of got me inspired, even though I didn't go on to do this, but it made me want to read more biographies of different classic composers. I will do that. I mean, I would love to read something about Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, and some of the really famous ones, just to see what their lives were like, because they're so interesting. Just somebody that can take music like that and create these pieces where they're composing all the different instruments and how it's all going to go together. That's so fascinating to me. So this one was fantastic. I really loved it. And if you're a nature lover or you like birds, I think you would really enjoy this one. Okay, next we have a book that I got from the library, and this one was called Open Throat by Henry Hoke. This book I found out about from Kaitlyn Bandy's channel called Bandy Books. She had mentioned this in one of the books that she had really enjoyed. It's a novella. It's a really interesting book. I've never read anything quite like it. What made it so interesting was that it's a story told from the perspective of a mountain lion, a non-binary mountain lion, and their experience living in the Hollywood Hills, kind of around the Hollywood sign and in those woods and stuff in that area, and how this mountain lion perceives the world and what it thinks about humans. And what it thinks about this camp of people that live there, homeless people that are living there. And oh my gosh, it was so weird, but it was so good. I thought about this book for so long after I finished it. The second half of the book was almost like a fever dream. You're trying to figure out what's real and what isn't real. And it was just, it was so good and weird, and I really enjoyed it. So that made my list this year. I gave it 5 stars just because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was really, really interesting and really well done. And it talked about different themes about the environment and pollution and sexual identity, gender identity, all that kind of thing. So I thought the way he presented these topics was just so creative and interesting. So I really liked that one. Okay, next I have a fiction book called The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brammer. This book had such an interesting premise to me. So we're following our main character whose name is Clover, and she works as a death doula. So she works as somebody that helps or assists people at the end of their life into sort of more of a psychological and spiritual comfort rather than the medical part of like what a hospice nurse would do, where they're monitoring symptoms and administering medicines and treatments. The death doula is there for you to talk to and as a comfort. And I think that type of job sounds amazing to me. But she works as a death doula, and she's very alone in life. She's has a hard time forming relationships with people, friendships, romantic relationships. And it just talks about her experience of talking to these people, listening to their stories, listening to what they regret about life. And she keeps it all in a notebook, and then she'll try to kind of go out and do some of their last wishes. So one woman wanted to go ice skating in this certain area, so she went ice skating in her memory. So things like that. And it just talks about her journey and how she was able to overcome some of the problems that she had in her own life, and how she was able to open up and relate to people more and find happiness. So although I don't think it was the best written book in the world, and there were maybe some pacing issues, the story and her arc really emotionally moved me. So that's why I gave it a 5 star. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole story or message that they were trying to say. Okay, and the last of my books that I don't have with me that I really loved and gave a 5 star to was another shorter book. It wasn't quite a novella, I don't think, but this one was called Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. And this was a retelling of the myth of Medusa, told from Medusa's point of view, kind of showcasing her as someone that was innocent in everything that happened and what happened to her, and that like from her perspective. And it was really great. It had a lot of different themes within the book. It was very feminist heavy. It talked about this idea that women can be really awful to each other instead of sticking up for each other and fighting against the oppression that they feel from the males in the story. So it kind of takes what we thought to be our heroes, flips it around a little bit, and it was really well written. It was really well done. I was engaged in this book from start to finish, and I really enjoyed it. So that's that one. I also really loved and enjoyed A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. This was a fantastic play, one of the comedies. I had seen a production of this a really long time ago, back in my 20s, a million years ago, and I remember really enjoying it. But reading the play itself and kind of paying attention to it more, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I loved the characters, Hermia, Helena. They were so good. And I think what made it really special to me is that I listened to this on audio while I read it. So I experienced the play in an auditory sense and while reading the words on the page. So I feel like I got it all. I got every word. I paid attention to the whole thing. And then my local community theater actually had a showing of this summer. And so the combination of reading it, listening to it, and then watching it be performed was such a great experience. Now, if I hadn't had all that, I still think I would have given this a 5 star. This was, I think, my favorite Shakespeare so far. It's hard to tell, though, because I read and listened to Romeo and Juliet, and that'll probably always be a favorite just because I grew up with that. I mean, the Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes movie, that was like my favorite movie for a really long time. So, but this is a close second, if not my favorite. So really loved this. I'm excited to get into more Shakespeare. I did read something else by Shakespeare this past year, but I didn't enjoy it as much. So that one stuck out as a favorite. Next, we have a nonfiction. This is called A Woman of No Importance, The Untold Story of the American Spy Who Helped Win World War II. This is by Sonia Purnell. You guys have probably heard me talk about this a lot, especially recently. I read it for Dr. November. And this was fantastic. I don't know what else I can really say about it, except it was just such an incredible story about this woman who did things that I just don't know how she had so much courage and the endurance to keep going. What made her so special was that she had a prosthetic leg as well. So she worked as a spy in France for the resistance, for the independence of France, and the things that she was able to do and create and the connections she was able to make were just amazing. I highly recommend this book. I really enjoyed it. The writing wasn't amazing. The writing was good, but it did kind of feel a little bit stiff at times, but I think the story of what she did outweighed that for me. So I still loved it and gave it a 5-star. Along those lines, I also recently read and loved The Spy and the Traitor by Ben McIntyre, the greatest espionage story of the Cold War. Now, as a contrast, this was amazingly written. I thought the writing in this one was really well done, and it follows Russian KGB agent Olav Gordievsky, who grew up in a KGB family. This was his career, but as he got older and started to see more of the world, he realized he didn't really agree with the way that their Russian system was and the Russian government and what Russia was doing. And so he decided to work as a spy for Britain against the KGB. And it was just such a cool story. I can't say enough about this book. This might be definitely one of my favorite books of the year. I just loved it. It was so good. It read like a fiction story. It was so full of action and suspense, and yeah, because it tells how, this is not a spoiler, it's right on the back, but it tells how the Russian KGB finds out and he has to escape Russia. And just the escape plan was great. So I really love this one. Next, I have another nonfiction that I found. I thrifted this from the thrift store a while ago, but this is just simply called Chipmunk Portrait, and it's by Heinisch. I don't even know the full author's name, but this book was written and published in the 50s, I believe. Nope, sorry, 1970. And this is just a short little book talking about the life of a chipmunk, and it had these beautiful little pen and ink illustrations throughout. But it talks about kind of the history of the chipmunk being native to North America, of course, and the folklore behind it. And then it follows this one chipmunk through her life. And it was written in such a charming way. I mean, and again, he's anthropomorphizing this animal a little bit, but it was so charming. I really enjoyed it. I never would have thought it would be as cute as it was. But yeah, this was great. Love that. And now we'll get to the last of the books. These are all fiction. So this was a reread for me, but this is Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde, and this is one of his comedic plays. Now, the first time I read this, I actually just listened to it as audio, and I loved it. It was fantastic. Really well done, funny, fun. This time I read it and listened to it at the same time. So a similar experience that I had with the Shakespeare plays that I like to do. Get the audio, listen to it along, getting everything, and tab my favorite parts. So I just really enjoyed this. The performance was great. I'll leave a picture, of course, of each of the versions of audio I listened to for both this and the Shakespeare. And I thought the voice acting was fantastic. And it was also dramatized, so you could hear the sound effects, you could hear plates clanking, you could hear doors opening. So the whole experience of this was really fun. It's a misunderstanding. It's so British. It's so like stiff upper lip, charming, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, even though it was a reread, it's still making the list. I also read and really enjoyed this classic. It's called Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. And this one had been on my radar for a while. I think I heard about it first from Mark again at Booktime with Elvis. I think I've heard him talk about it maybe like 20 times on his channel. So I was really happy to finally be inspired to read this. He did Shorty September, so he read one book a month for the whole month of September, and I kind of tagged along on this, even though it took me a couple weeks to actually finish it. But this is so fun and funny. It's fiction, but it's based off of the author's real experience of traveling down the Thames River and just the little adventures they have. But it's a lot of reflection. So he's with his two friends and the dog at Montmorency, and they're traveling on holiday down this river, and they stop at different ports, but along the way he's remembering different stories of funny things that have happened to them. And I just thought it was really funny. I loved the writing. The writing was funny, but it was also really good and beautiful. But I loved just the way he told the stories. There's a story about them getting lost in a maze, which is so ridiculous and funny. There's just a story about like this one uncle that thought he knew everything, and he had a really good way of examining human nature and finding the humor in it. So I really love this. This was excellent. And there's another book within this. It's called Three Men on the Bummel, which I really hope to get to as well. So that was great. All right, next I have The Rose Code by Kaitlyn. This was a fantastic audiobook that I listened to for Dr. November. And this follows three British women who work as code breakers during World War II. And then they have to discover this traitor who's amongst them. One of the women actually gets pinned as the traitor, and she gets sent to live in a mental institute where they're quickly approaching or they're scheduling a lobotomy for her. So she's trying to escape this place. They all had a falling out, so she's trying to get in touch with the other two. So it's a dual timeline that goes back in time to when they were working as code breakers and how they evolved within this business and the things that they were able to accomplish, and then also the present day where she's in the insane asylum. She's figured out who the traitor was, and she's trying to get this information out there. So it was really good. It's quite long. I think it's 600 pages, but it flew by for me. All the three characters were so fascinating. They were really fleshed out well. They were very different from each other, and they were all really likable. So I really enjoyed this one. Next, I have my favorite romance book. I don't read a ton of contemporary romance, but I do find that this is an author that I do like. And this is Ali Hazelwood, and this is her book, The Love Hypothesis. And this book was so cute. It follows these two people that work in the STEM industry, and he is a professor there and she's a grad student. They're not linked with each other. They don't work under each other, so it's not a creepy teacher-student thing. It's more of like they just happen to both be at the same place, and it's a grumpy sunshine romance. So it's also a fake dating trope, which was really fun. So for different reasons, to help each other out, they are in this pretend romance, and of course it leads to actually really falling in love. But I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought the pacing was great. The way she wrote the characters was great. They weren't too over the top. Like I don't mean to keep comparing Emily Henry to her, but I found that sometimes Emily Henry has over-exaggerated banter that kind of makes you sick of the characters after a while, but I felt like this was great. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed my time reading this one. And I do hope to check out more of Ali Hazelwood in the future. Okay, the other children's classic, my favorite one of the year, was The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This was fantastic. This follows four friends. They're all animals, but they're humanized, and their adventure during one full year. And it is just so sweet and so charming and cozy. And it was just so sweet. Oh my gosh, the friendships, especially Mole, he was my favorite. But I really enjoyed it. Now, this is a book that I don't think is for everyone because it's not very heavy in the plot in terms of it being this crazy, adventurous plot. I mean, there were really great moments in it, especially with Mr. Toad and his obsession with the motor car. But for me, it was a book that you just purely enjoy reading each page and taking your time with it and just enjoying it for what it was in that aspect. So I really love this one. The last book that I really loved and enjoyed was Kristen Hanna's The Four Winds. Oh, this book was wonderful. I enjoyed this. This is another one that I listened to as audio. Fantastic narrator. And I just was so moved by this book. And I know this isn't even her best one. So this is an author that I'm really, really excited to check out more of in 2026. I have the one about, I think it's called The Great Alone, the one that takes place in Alaska. I think that's going to wreck me. That's going to be an emotional read. But this book, we're following this young woman named Elsa who is living in Texas it starts out during the Roaring 20s where everything's great. They have a farm, everything's going well, and then the Dust Bowl hits and they can no longer grow anything. And it talks about this huge migration that happened in the Dust Bowl region where a lot of people migrated up to California. And California began to get oversaturated by a lot of new people, and the Californians themselves were not happy. They were already mad about the immigrants that were coming in, but now they were even worse with the new people coming in, and they were basically treated like garbage. And it talks about her experience in poverty, trying to support her 2 children in a very, very difficult situation. And I loved the main character of Elsa. She was so likable. I loved the relationship between Elsa and her 13-year-old daughter and how that went along and the arc that came about through that. It was just a story about strength, about motherhood. And I was just so moved by this character and what happened to her and the story that it told. It was so vivid in my mind. The descriptions were so beautiful. I could really picture everything in the story. And again, the audio narrator brought it to life in a big way. And I think the same narrator does more of her books, which is great. So I really don't know what my favorite one was. I had such a good reading year, and I'm so glad that I was able to experience so many 5-star books this past year, and I'm excited to see what 2026 holds. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you had a favorite book of 2026, please let me know. If you're a booktuber and you haven't made a little quick video about what your favorites were and you feel inspired, please tag me if you do, because I would love to know what your favorites were. And it's not too late to make a video because I'm making one now. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.